I still remember the smell of that kitchen. Sweet potato pie cooling on the counter, cornbread browning in the oven, Mama's gospel playlist humming low through the Bluetooth speaker she never figured out how to turn up. It smelled like home. It smelled like a lie. My name is Andrew Perez. I was 31 years old, sitting at the far end of a dining room table I'd been sitting at my whole life, except now I was the only one who didn't feel welcome at it. Let me set the scene for you. Thanksgiving. Detroit. The kind of cold that doesn't ask permission, it just walks through your coat and sits in your chest. The house at 4412, Callaway Street was packed. My mother, Chloe. My older brother, Leroy. His wife, June. My aunt Bernadette. My cousin Dre. And my mother's new boyfriend, Raymond, a man I'd met exactly 4 times, who was somehow seated at the head of my late father's table. I drove 2 hours from Columbus for this. I brought the macaroni. I brought 2 pies. I even bought Raymond a bottle of Hennessy because I was trying. I was always trying. Andrew, can you scoot your chair? Raymond needs more room, Mama said, not looking at me. I scooted. Leroy caught my eye from across the table and smirked. Not the kind of smirk that says I see you, bro. The kind that says stay in your place. I didn't know then that by the end of that night, everything would combust. I didn't know that the house we were sitting in, the house my father left to me, was about to become the most powerful card I'd ever play. I just scooted my chair. Here's what nobody in that room knew about me. When my father, Harold Perez, passed 4 years ago from a heart attack, he left behind a will. A quiet, careful document that his attorney, Mr. Elijah Stubbs, had helped him draft 6 months before his death. My father knew his heart was failing. He just never told Mama. The will was simple. The house at 4412 Callaway, all 1,800 square feet of it, the backyard garden my father built with his own hands, the garage full of his tools, went to me. Andrew. Not Leroy. Not Chloe. Me. Why? Because I was the one who drove home every weekend his last 2 years to take him to dialysis. I was the one who sat with him through chemo prep, through bad nights, through the morning he cried watching the sunrise and said, Andrew, I wasted so much time trying to please people who didn't love me right. He looked at me when he said it. I was 27. I didn't fully understand what he meant yet. After the funeral, Mama called me crying. You're not going to put us out, right? Raymond isn't in the picture yet. It's just me and Leroy and June. I said no. Of course not. I covered the property taxes, $4,200 a year, out of my own pocket. I fixed the roof in 2022. That was $11,000. I never asked for a dime back. 3 years of this. Raymond appeared 14 months ago. Suddenly, my calls home got shorter. Leroy stopped updating me on repairs. And Mama started referring to the house as our place, like the deed had rewritten itself. It hadn't. Raymond was the kind of man who filled a room by talking loudly about himself. By the time we got to the second course, he'd already told 3 stories about his former job in Atlanta, dropped the phrase back when I had my bends twice, and corrected my mother's cornbread recipe like he'd been eating it for decades. Chloe, baby, you put too much sugar. My mama made it savory, he said, cutting into a perfect square. My mother, a woman who had made that cornbread for 53 years, smiled and said, You're probably right, Ray. I looked at Aunt Bernadette. She looked at her plate. Leroy jumped in. Raymond was telling me about potentially investing in some properties around here. You know anything about real estate, Andrew? The emphasis on Andrew was deliberate. A little needle. I own property, I said evenly. I mean professionally, Leroy said. Raymond laughed. No offense, young blood, but owning one house doesn't make you a real estate guy. One house. He said it like it was nothing. Like that house wasn't the one we were sitting in. Like his name was anywhere on that deed. I let it go. I picked up my fork. I ate my macaroni and reminded myself that I was an adult who didn't need to win a dinner table argument. But Dre, my cousin, 19 years old and always watching, looked at me from across the table with this expression. Quiet. Worried. Later, washing dishes, he pulled me aside. "Cause," he whispered. "Leroy told Raymond the house is the family's. Like equally. Does Raymond think?" "Drop it, Dre." "Andrew." I said drop it. I should have listened to him. It happened over pie. My mother's sweet potato pie. The one she'd been making since before I was born. The one my father used to say could fix a broken heart. Raymond took the first slice. Then the second. Then he leaned back, patted his stomach, and said, "Chloe, you know what this house needs? An extension on the back. Ray Jr.'s coming to live with us next spring." Silence. Ray Jr., his son. From Atlanta. Coming to live here. Here. I set my fork down very carefully. "Raymond," I said, and my voice was calm. "I want you to understand, I was calm. This house isn't really the right place for that kind of planning." He looked at me. "Why not?" "Because it's not your house." The table went dead quiet. My mother's eyes snapped to me like a whip. "Andrew." Her voice was a warning. "Mama, I'm just clarifying. You are always doing this." She stood up. Her chair scraped back hard. "Always making everything about yourself. Always with the deed, the property, the ownership." She said ownership like it was a dirty word. "This is your family's home. Not your asset." "It's literally my asset, Mama. I pay the taxes. I fix the roof." "Then leave." Her voice cracked the room open. "If that's all this is to you, money and deeds and ownership, then leave. Find your own life, Andrew. We don't need your charity." Everyone froze. June stared at the table. Aunt Bernadette covered her mouth. Dre looked like he'd been slapped. I stood up slowly. I put my napkin on the plate. I picked up my keys. And I walked out without saying a single word. 2 hours back to Columbus. No music. No podcast. Just highway and headlights and that specific kind of silence that lives inside your chest after someone guts you in front of people you love. My phone lit up 3 times before I even hit the freeway. "Leroy, bro, you didn't have to make it weird." June, "Andrew, please don't do anything crazy, she's just stressed." Aunt Bernadette, "Baby, call me when you get home safe." Nothing from Mama. I thought about my father. I thought about Harold Perez driving me to my first job interview at 16, straightening my collar in the parking lot, saying, "Son, never let anyone make you feel small in a space you built." He was talking about the interview. Or maybe he wasn't. I thought about the $11,000 roof. I thought about 3 years of property taxes paid from my Columbus apartment while I drove a car with 140,000 miles on it because I didn't want my mother to struggle. I thought about Raymond's face when he said Ray Jr.'s coming to live with us. With us. Like I wasn't a factor. Like the deed was decorative. My therapist, Dr. Anita Whalen, had told me 8 months earlier, "Andrew, you have to stop rescuing people who don't acknowledge being rescued." I'd nodded and kept writing checks. By the time I pulled into my apartment parking lot, something had shifted. It wasn't anger. Anger burns hot and quick. This was colder. Cleaner. I sat in my car for a long time. Then I called Mr. Elijah Stubbs. His voicemail picked up. I left a message. "Mr. Stubbs. It's Andrew Perez. I need to talk about 4412, Callaway Street. I think it's time." He called back Monday morning at 8:14 a.m. Mr. Elijah Stubbs was 72 years old, semi-retired, and had handled my father's affairs for 20 years. He had a voice like a church organ, low, measured, resonant. He did not waste words. "Andrew, I've been wondering when you'd call." That sentence alone told me everything. "You knew this was coming?" I asked. "Your father knew it might. He made me promise not to interfere unless you asked." A pause. "You're asking." We talked for 40 minutes. He walked me through everything I already knew legally: sole ownership, no co-heirs, no encumbrances, but also told me something I didn't know. "Your brother Leroy," Mr. Stubbs said carefully, Came to see me 8 months ago. Asked whether a long-term occupancy could create a claim on the property. My blood ran cold. What did you tell him? The truth. That in Michigan, adverse possession requires open, hostile, and exclusive possession for 15 years. They don't qualify. But Andrew, he paused. He seemed disappointed by that answer. Not surprised. Disappointed. Leroy had been researching how to take my house. My brother who called me on my birthday every year. My brother whose kids I sent Christmas money to, had been quietly investigating how to strip the deed from under me. What are my options? I asked. Mr. Stubbs was quiet for a moment. You can give them formal written notice. Standard 60 days in Michigan. After that, the property is yours to do with as you please. Sell, rent, lease. If I sell, what's the market like on Callaway right now? Andrew. His voice shifted slightly. Almost warm. That neighborhood has appreciated considerably. I'd estimate between $290,000 and $310,000. I wrote the number down. I drove back to Detroit on a Tuesday. Not for drama. For truth. I told no one I was coming. I knocked on the door of 4412 Callaway at 11 a.m. Leroy answered in a house robe. His face did something complicated when he saw me. Andrew. Let me in. He stepped aside. The house smelled different. Raymond's cologne hung in the air. There was a Detroit Pistons throw on my father's recliner. We sat in the kitchen. I didn't take off my coat. Mr. Stubbs told me you visited him, I said. Leroy's jaw tightened. He wasn't supposed to. He works for me, Leroy. Silence. So what was the plan? I asked. Adverse possession? Wait 15 years and take the house? Or was Raymond going to help you buy me out for nothing? Leroy looked at the table. For a moment, he looked like the big brother who used to let me sleep in his room during thunderstorms. Then that disappeared. Andrew, be real. You live in Columbus. You don't need this house. Mama's here. Her whole life is here. Raymond wants to invest in this property, fix it up properly. Fix it up. I laughed. Quiet. Painful. I spent $11,000 on that roof. And we appreciate. Don't. I stood up. Don't say you appreciate it. Because if you appreciated it, you wouldn't have spent 8 months looking for a legal loophole to steal it. He didn't argue. That was the most damning thing. He didn't deny it, didn't explain it, he just looked at that table like it owed him something. I buttoned my coat. You'll be getting formal notice from Mr. Stubbs this week, I said. 60 days. She called that night at 9 p.m. I almost didn't answer. But something in me, some stubborn flicker of hope that she'd say the right thing, picked up. Andrew. Her voice was different. Not soft, exactly. Careful. Like she was choosing each word from a shelf. Mama. Leroy told me what you said. Okay. You're going to sell the house. Not a question. I haven't decided. Andrew, I am 61 years old. I have lived in that house for 30 years. I know. Your father would not want. Don't. My voice cracked and I hated it. Don't use Daddy right now. Not after Thanksgiving. Not after you told me to leave. Silence. Long and heavy. I was upset, she finally said. You were embarrassed, I corrected. Because Raymond was there and you wanted him to feel like the man of the house. In my father's house. In my house. She didn't say anything. Mama, I have paid taxes on that property for 4 years. I fixed the roof. I have never once asked you to pay rent or help with maintenance. And on Thanksgiving, in front of everyone, you screamed at me to find my own life. I heard her breathing. Do you know what Daddy said to me? The last year of his life. I didn't wait for her answer. He said people will take from you quietly for as long as you let them. He was talking about himself. But I think he was warning me too. Andrew, please. You'll receive notice from Mr. Stubbs. 60 days. Mama. I'm not doing this to hurt you. But I'm done letting you all pretend this house was never mine. I hung up. I sat on my bathroom floor and cried for an hour. Mr. Stubbs sent it certified mail on a Wednesday. Formal notice of owner-occupied property intent. 60 days to vacate 4412, Callaway Street. Clean. Legal. Ironclad. I know because June texted me Thursday morning. Andrew, the letter came. Leroy is going insane. Please just call somebody and talk this through. Then Leroy, this is low. Even for you. Then Raymond, and I want you to understand, this man texted me from a number I had never given him, which means Leroy gave it to him. Raymond texted, young blood, you don't want this smoke. That's family property. We'll see you in court. I forwarded that text directly to Mr. Stubbs. Mr. Stubbs replied, he has no legal standing. This will not proceed to court. Then something unexpected happened. Aunt Bernadette called. She was my father's sister. 70 years old. Sharp as broken glass. I hadn't spoken to her since Thanksgiving, but she'd been calling twice a week and I hadn't picked up. I picked up this time. Boy, she said, skipping hello, I need you to know something. Yes, Raymond is not who your mother thinks he is. A pause. I did some asking around. He's got 2 evictions in the last 3 years. Wayne County records. He was looking for somewhere to land, Andrew. And your brother let him into that house knowing. My throat tightened. Leroy knew. Leroy met Raymond at a card game 14 months ago. Raymond needed housing. Leroy needed someone to back his plan to push you out. She sighed, long and tired. Your daddy trusted you with that house for a reason. Don't you fold now. I didn't fold. His name was Deshawn. 38. Contractor. He'd been flipping homes in the Callaway district for 6 years, and Mr. Stubbs knew him professionally. We met at a coffee shop on a Saturday in January. Deshawn had warm eyes, a firm handshake, and a folder full of comparable sales that confirmed everything Mr. Stubbs had told me. $298,000 cash offer, Deshawn said. I'll close in 30 days. No contingencies. I looked at those numbers. $298,000. 4 years of property taxes, $16,800. The roof, $11,000. Random repairs over the years, roughly $4,000. My total investment, about $32,000. The property my father bought in 1991 for $67,000 was now worth nearly $300,000. And my family had been planning to ease me out of it quietly. I need one condition, I told Deshawn. He nodded. Name it. The sale closes after the 60-day notice period. I want everything legal. I want no one to be able to say I rushed this. Understood. He extended his hand. Deal. We shook. Walking to my car, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not happiness exactly. Something cleaner. Like when you've been carrying a bag for so long you forget it's there, and then you set it down. I called Dre on the drive home. Dre, 19 years old, the only one who'd tried to warn me at Thanksgiving. It's done, I told him. Done, he asked. Contract signed. Pending the notice period. He was quiet for a second. Then, Uncle Harold would be proud of you, cause. I didn't trust my voice for a moment. Yeah, I finally said. I think he would. The 2 months between the notice and the sale were the longest of my life. Mama called 7 times. I answered twice. Both conversations ended the same way, her crying, me holding the phone, both of us stuck in the space between what we wanted to say and what we actually said. The second time, she told me she'd asked Raymond to leave. I blinked. What? Aunt Bernadette told me things. Her voice was stripped of its usual armor. About Raymond. About Leroy. A long pause. I didn't know your brother was meeting with that lawyer. I want you to know I didn't know. I believed her. That might surprise you. But I knew my mother. She was proud and stubborn and capable of taking up with the wrong man, but she wasn't calculated. Leroy was calculated. Raymond was calculated. Chloe Perez was just lonely. Why didn't you just talk to me, Mama? I asked. About the house. About Raymond. About any of it. Because I was ashamed, she whispered. Ashamed that your brother had to tell me the house wasn't mine. Ashamed that I didn't know the difference between your daddy's love and your daddy's property. That hit different. Where will you go? I asked. Bernadette offered her spare room. And I've been looking at senior apartments on Woodward. The rents are manageable. She'd already been planning. That broke something open in me. Mama, I'll cover your deposit. And first month's rent. Silence. Andrew. Don't argue with me. She cried. Not the performative crying I'd heard on prior calls. Real crying. The kind that doesn't have words attached. I cried too, but only after I hung up. February 14th, Valentine's Day. Make of that what you will. I sat at a conference table in Mr. Stubbs' downtown Detroit office. Deshawn was across from me. Our attorneys on either side. Outside the window, the Detroit skyline was grey and cold and beautiful in the way Detroit always is, tough and honest about it. I signed 11 pages. $298,000. Wired to my account before 5 p.m. Mr. Stubbs shook my hand after. His grip was firm, deliberate. Your father would say you handled this with dignity. He might also say I took too long, I replied. Mr. Stubbs smiled. The first time I'd ever seen it. He'd say both. Leroy had moved out in week 3 of the notice period. June texted me once. For what it's worth, I told him this was wrong from the start. I didn't respond. Not out of coldness, I just didn't have words that fit. Raymond disappeared entirely. No more texts. No more young blood. Just gone, off to find the next soft landing, the next family's table to sit at the head of. I stayed in the parking lot of Mr. Stubbs' office for a long time after. Just sitting. The heat running. The radio off. My father built his life at 4412, Callaway Street. He planted tomatoes in that backyard. He fixed the porch railing twice. He held my mother's hand through 3 miscarriages in that house before Leroy came, then me. And he left it to me. Not to preserve it forever. To protect it from people who would take without honoring. I think I finally understood what he meant. Mama moved into a 2-bedroom apartment on Woodward Avenue in March. I helped her carry boxes. She didn't ask me to. I just showed up Saturday morning with Dre and a rented truck, and when she opened the door and saw us standing there, she covered her mouth with both hands. We didn't talk about the house. We didn't talk about Raymond or Leroy or any of it. We just carried boxes and assembled furniture and ordered Coney Island takeout and sat on her new carpet eating because the table wasn't built yet. At some point she looked at me and said, "You look like your daddy." "I know," I said. "He'd be proud." Mr. Stubbs said the same thing. She laughed. Small and real. Elijah Stubbs has been saying the same 5 things for 40 years. It was the first time we'd laughed together since before Thanksgiving. Leroy and I haven't spoken. Maybe that changes. Maybe it doesn't. I know who he is now, not a villain, exactly, but a man who let greed replace brotherhood. That's a him problem. I'm not carrying it. With the proceeds, I put $60,000 into a diversified account. I'm under contract on a duplex in Columbus. 1 unit for me, 1 rented out. I'm building something real now. Something with my name on it that nobody can rewrite. My father said, never let anyone make you feel small in a space you built. Mama told me to find my own life. Here's the thing she didn't expect. I did.